Christian Novels Audiobooks, The Story of Wayne and Jean Vozzolo, The Cross Penny Series, Kisses of Mercy, Episode number 113. Early Monday morning, Chester, Carrie, Sophie, and Sammy picked up Trish. She had on her running clothes, but also brought clothes to change into long sleeves and blue jeans and different shoes. Sophie did the same. As soon as Chester parked, the two girls grabbed water bottles and started running around the road inside the fence post line. This time they had to watch for tractors coming and going. Vozzolo produce had come alive again Sunday night as the evening pickers showed up. At daylight they were joined by plowers, planters, shippers, and the original fence crew. The pickers helped the shippers pack the produce according to the different orders for each of the restaurants in the city. Wayne made sure he and Jean had copies of each order, directions, plus all copies the government agency had given them with the all clear and safe for human and animal consumption notice. When the truck was loaded, he and Jean headed to the city. The guys who normally drove the trucks had already donned leather gloves and were working with the fence crew. "Ever fenced before?" Sophie asked Trish as they ran by the fencing crew and the other amigos stretched barbed wire by the outside highway. "Nope." "You?" Trish replied. "Nope. I guess we won't be doing it any younger," Sophie laughed. "But it will be an interesting skill to add to our resumes." Trish also laughed as they both continued their steady running rhythm. Mrs. Fitzgerald was surprised to see a phone truck at Sunny Hills Nursing Home so early on Monday morning as she drove up. But she wasn't surprised to see the yellow station wagon parked next to Pastor Lorimore's car. A phone installer came out of the first room across from the dining hall. "Excuse me, ma'am, do you work here?" he asked. "Yes, I am the director," she replied. "Can I help you?" "Yes, Aunt Bertha, Mrs. Ruppel insisted I also install a line for Pastor Lorimore in his room. Would you be so kind as to show me where it is and unlock it?" Mrs. Fitzgerald looked confused. "Certainly, let me get the key." She went into her office and saw a stack of paperwork and a note from Gwen. Immediately she got the key from the key nook and escorted the phone installer down to the empty corner room. "Do you have any idea where he might want his phone?" he asked. "No, but there's a note taped on the floor over here by the two windows," she answered. "The desk goes here and the phone goes on the desk. GW." The nursing home had phone outlets in every room. The installer had to connect the phone to it, run an ample line, and secure it safely to avoid a trip hazard. Then he had to call it over to his phone mainframe building, then have them make the connection live, and finally verify the phone number. Before he was finished, Mrs. Fitzgerald made the square and saw Gwen hugging everybody. Honey and Pastor Lorimore headed back to the office with Mrs. Fitzgerald and Gwen. The phone installer came out of the room, walked toward them near the office. "It's all done. Anything else before I leave?" Before Mrs. Fitzgerald could say no, Gwen spoke up. "Yes." Mrs. Fitzgerald looked surprised. "I need you to pretend you are a minister and marry these two. They've only been married close to 50 years, but she insists they get married before she moves in with him." Aunt Bertha appeared with her walker and a small bouquet of cheap plastic flowers. "I'm the maid of honor. I was at their first wedding, and now I am again," she announced as she handed Honey the gaudy flowers. Other residents on their way to breakfast gathered around them. "Okay," said. "Beloved," he began. "Where's your Bible?" Honey stopped him. Gwen reached past the cage of finches, grabbed a Bible off the bookshelf, and handed it to the phone installer. "That's better," Honey said. "Beloved, we are gathered here in the sight of God and men and ladies to renew the wedding vows of—" "Now, what are your names?" he asked. "He's Pastor Lorimore and I'm his wife, Honey," Honey answered. "Thank you. We are gathered here this morning to renew the wedding vows of Pastor Lorimore and his lovely wife, Honey. Pastor, do you still take Honey to love and honor and cherish and be your wife as long as you both shall live?" "I still do," the pastor answered. "And Honey, do you still take Pastor Lorimore to love and honor and cherish and be your husband as long as you both shall live?" "I do." Before the phone installer could say anything else, Honey reached over and kissed the pastor, said, "I'm hungry. They never feed me around here. I want my breakfast." She handed Gwen the bouquet and turned toward the dining room. "Well, the guys will never believe this one," the installer said as he laughed and handed the Bible back to Gwen. "And it looks like you caught the bouquet." He said goodbye to Aunt Bertha, nodded his head to Mrs. Fitzgerald, and left. As everyone returned to the dining area for breakfast, Mrs. Fitzgerald said, "I think I need to see you in my office." That's good, because I need to talk to you about something, too, Gwen replied as she put the Bible back on the bookshelf. The phone installer met the rest of his crew over at Vozzolo Produce to figure out the best way to add a line of Tony Shad, but set it up so that all the lines could be entered on any phone, from the house to the mess hall kitchen to the office and finally to Tony Shad. The major problem was all the telephone poles were on the opposite side of the dead-end street from Tony Shad. The second major problem was keeping all the other lines live while installing the new phones. By the time the installer arrived, his crew had put up another pole across the street just opposite the mess hall. Then they all took a break with their coffee thermoses. He told them about the wedding at which he had just officiated. A few laughed so hard they choked on their coffee. "That almost tops you telling us about running a line around the dead cat behind a couch, since nobody would move the cat," said one of the crew. "Well, the lady wouldn't touch it. She said it had been missing since they rearranged the furniture." The installer replied and shook his head, "And I sure wasn't going to touch that dried-out feline." Before lunch, the telephone wire was installed on the new pole, attached to the building, and ran inside to where the offices would be. The pole and line crew moved on to the next work order while the installer stayed. Now he needed to install 2 phones, one for Beth's non-existent desk and one for Carrie's non-existent desk in their non-existent offices.